the basic concepts which are associated with Indus Valley civilization, like the origin of the civilization. So we have a broader opinion among the scholars, like a group of scholars opine that the Indus people hail from Central Asia, especially they were the civilization is nothing but like, it's a branch of Mesopotamian civilization. We call it foreign origin theory. When it comes to R.S. Sharma and others, they opine that already we had pre-existing cultures, and these cultures over a period of time emerged as civilization. Right? And we have also discussed the various basic aspects which are associated with Indus Valley civilization. Now, in this session, let us understand the characteristic features of Indus Valley civilization. The characteristic features of Indus Valley civilization. In fact, before getting the details of characteristic features of Indus Valley civilization, which we supposed to understand the major towns and cities, that is, we have Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, at least like half a dozen important towns and cities we supposed to understand. You'll be going to get like a piece of paper, please. All happen to be facts that will be given tomorrow or day after tomorrow sessions, right? So characteristic features of Indus Valley civilization. To begin with, that is town planning. So under the tag called characteristic features of Indus Valley civilization or features of Indus Valley civilization, we supposed to discuss town planning or city administration, followed by society, otherwise called as social conditions, followed by economy, economic conditions, and finally religion, religious conditions. So for an organized way of teaching, please. As I was telling, go through +1, +2, old NCERTs. In NCERTs, no doubt you get content, but it was not organized. For our convenience, the topics were organized. Now, when we understand town planning of Indus Valley civilization, once again, we need to depend on archaeology. Because though Indus people developed script, we were not in a position to decipher it, thereby we were forced to depend on archaeological sources. So based on archaeological sources, archaeologists, they came to a conclusion saying that Indus towns broadly divided into two categories. Two parts you call them. Right? That is the western part and eastern part. Or you also call them western towns and eastern towns. Western towns otherwise called as upper towns. Then how about eastern towns? They were called as lower towns. If someone asks a question, why western towns otherwise called as upper towns or upper structures, there are for two reasons. One among them was the western towns are the houses which are located on western side of a town built on high platform. Try to understand. They were built on high platform. This is one of the reasons, right? Besides high platform, we also found citadel, or some sort of forts you call them, great walls you call them, citadels, big walls. So on one hand, the houses, the structures which are located on western side of a town were built on high platform. To make you understand, I am standing on high platform. Compared with you people, a little bit high platform, elevated position we call it. We will be going to discuss in subsequent classes one of the features of Indo-Islamic style of architecture, the Muslim monuments you call mosques, be it religious monuments and be it secular monuments. Muslim monuments were built on high platform, please. The best example, Taj Mahal. It was built on the lines of Indo-Islamic style of architecture. We were not talking about Indo-Islamic style of architecture, we were talking about very basic logic even. Right? Now let us understand this particular concept with layman's language. Why did Indus people construct their houses which are located on western part with high platform? Very simple, to protect their houses from rivers, floods. High platform. Second one, citadel, that is walls. Big walls, you call them, large walls. Why citadels? Why walls? The same reason, like to protect themselves from rivers, river waters. In fact, we did not discuss the major towns of Indus Valley Civilization. We'll be going to discuss tomorrow by giving the list. Half a dozen important towns. We have Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Chenhu-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan. We have list of towns and cities. All towns and cities except one or two, remaining all towns and cities of Indus Valley Civilization were located at the banks of rivers. So in order to protect themselves from the ferocious waters, river waters, Indus people built their houses on high platform and their houses were surrounded by walls. Simple, keep aside. Then how about eastern towns? Why they were called as lower towns? Very simple, the absence of high platform, the absence of citadels. Neither we found the eastern towns were built on high platform, nor they were surrounded by walls. So by looking at this feature, by looking at the town planning or city administration, archaeologists opine that Indus Valley society got classified on the basis of class. Try to understand. When I say on the basis of class, it's one of the elements of society that will be discussed. I'm just introducing society one element on the basis of class. When I say on the basis of class, you call rich and poor. Those people who lived on western side, so who had high platform features and citadel features, obviously they were rich. It's an hypothesis, let me tell you. It's an opinion of the respective archaeologist. Why we were using the term called hypothesis, as I was telling in the previous sessions, we don't have exact evidences. We don't have say 100% accurate evidences so that we can establish that this is what happened kind of. But though it was an hypothesis, acceptable, rational, scientific, and apply this towards lower towns. As we referred in the previous sessions, one element, that is cultural continuation. We used the term called cultural continuation. There are two countries on the earth which even follow without breaking the culture. What were they? India and China. One more example, town structure. Especially if you observe the structures in villages, the houses of high caste people were generally located on high platforms. Koncham elevated position untayi. Then how about the houses of low castes? In a village, western side of village or colonies, whatever you call it, eastern side of a village, generally western side were inhabited by high caste people. I'm talking about today. Why we were using the term called caste? Because at present Hindu society got classified on the basis of caste. In fact, caste system born and brought up in later Vedic period, that will be discussed in subsequent classes. High caste people on western side of a town or of a village, you call it. When it comes to low caste people, marginalized sections of society, lower towns or lower villages, or eastern side of village. The best example, Hyderabad, let me tell you. Your Banjara Hills, Jubilee Hills, Madhapur, Kondapur, all these pools are these hilly people, affluent sections of Hyderabad society. Then how about Chikkadpalli, Gandhinagar, Bolakpur, Chepsar, LV Nagar, Vanasthalipuram, Ayat Nagar. And history taught us, in any natural calamities, the worst victims happen to be these people, not not high class people, not high caste people. If you have the habit of reading newspapers, a couple of months ago, a couple of years ago you call it, Hyderabad was devastated by, what is the name of the river? River Musi, please. The worst victims happen to be lower towns or eastern town, not hilly people, please. Banjara Hills, like some XYZ hills. As I was telling in the very first class, observation is required for competitive exams. మా సార్ చెప్పినాడు అబ్జర్వేషన్ వెళ్ళి కూర్చొని అబ్జర్వ్ అది కాదు జనరల్ అబ్జర్వేషన్ వాట్ ఈజ్ వాట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ is another example of cultural continuation without breaking. That's the significance of Indian history. Fine. This is one of the elements that is you call it the first element, division of structures you call them. So in the tag called division of structure, yes, you can have all these stuff, right? Division of structure, a division of towns. Right. Another feature to be discussed under the tag called town planning, that is underground drainage system. Underground drainage system. Unlike Hyderabad, మాకు తెలుసులే సార్ అంత ఎంఫసైజ్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. Right. So when I say unlike Hyderabad, I need not to tell you how many of Hyderabad, like local people, Hyderabadis, వీళ్ళకి బాగా తెలుసు అనమాట. చిన్న వర్షం పడితే నీళ్లు భూమిలో పోవు అనమాట, భూమి పైన పోతాయి అనమాట. చాలా చిన్న రెయిన్ అనమాట. When it comes to the people of Indus Valley Civilization, it's quite interesting to know they followed very strict underground drainage system. That is the reason a town, one of the major towns of Indus Valley Civilization, will be going to discuss tomorrow's class, that is Mohenjo-daro got recognition from UNESCO. It has got perfect plan of a town. No doubt, division of structure, underground drainage system and other features. The small drainages were linked with main drainage. Starmark can supply entire drainage system within the underground. That's the greatness of the civilization. In fact, it is not exaggerate to say the fundamental differences between the other civilizations and Indus Valley civilization. When I say other civilizations, we have Mesopotamian, followed by Chinese, followed by Egypt. Mesopotamian civilization, Chinese civilization and Egypt civilization lacked these features. When I say lacked these features, what were the features we were discussing under the tag called town planning. No doubt, we found towns and cities in Mesopotamian civilization. We also found towns and cities in Egyptian civilization and Chinese civilization. But we never found an organized town administration which we found in Indus Valley civilization. The absence of organized town planning. So besides division of structure, we have underground drainage system. Besides underground drainage system, we have grid pattern system. Grid pattern. Can anyone, the only city which is built on the lines of grid pattern in India? Chandigarh. The only city, let me tell you. చండీగఢ్ చూస్తేనే కడుపు నిండిపోతుంది అనమాట. వన్స్ అగైన్ అన్లైక్ హైదరాబాద్ ప్లేస్. ఎప్పుడు చూసినా హైదరాబాద్ తిరుగుతావేంది సార్, చక్కగా ఉంటే తిట్టకుండా ఉండదు. స్ట్రైట్ వెళ్తుంటాం, 1/2 కిలోమీటర్ వెళ్తాం అనమాట. దర్గా వస్తుంది, లెఫ్ట్ తీసుకోవాలి. మళ్ళీ 1/2 కిలోమీటర్ ఒక టెంపుల్ వస్తుంది, మళ్ళీ రైట్ తీసుకోవాలి. ట్రాఫిక్ రాక అమ్మమ్మ వస్తుందా? వెరీ బేసిక్ కాన్సెప్ట్. We have hundreds and thousands of chota-mota temples, dargahs, mosques. And you are quite aware, if you touch them, your chapter would be closed. A chapter, sir, Indus Valley, ive taginchukolani. The respective governments, right from Congress government to TRS government, under the tag called, organizations, right, requesting the respective heads, దండం పెడతాం, మీకు ఎక్కడ వేరే దగ్గర స్థలం ఇస్తాం, ఎట్లా కనిపిస్తున్నాం మీకు పత్తాపరాలు. Because we were nurtured right from the beginning, unfortunately, with narrow-minded aspects. That's what Karl Marx says, religion is an opium of masses. You can play with the people with a placard called religion. Opium. Once you induce, that's it. You will become addicted. It was not in the case of other countries, let me tell you. That is the reason they were reaching to the celestial heights in terms of development, let me tell you. We, some X religion, some Y religion, some X caste, some Y caste, adi idi, patyapar, evodi vinyasalu, evodi performance ardam. That is the reason even today we were struggling to get the tag called third world countries or developing countries, you call them. Developed countries, developing countries. And like obviously third world countries. But thank God we are not belong to that category. We are making efforts to get the tag called developed countries for the past 7 decades, let me tell you. Because we were given independence 7 decades ago. ఎన్ని సంవత్సరాలు అయింది 70 ఏదో జూబ్లీ అంటారు దాన్ని ప్లాటినం జూబ్లీ అమ్మో పెద్ద పెద్ద పదాలు సిల్వర్ జూబ్లీ డైమండ్ జూబ్లీ ప్లాటినం జూబ్లీ ఇవన్నీ చెప్పుకోవడం బాగుంటాయి ఫైన్ సో మై పాయింట్ ఈజ్ మనం అబ్జర్వ్ చేయాలి ఇవన్నీ కూడా లైక్ అవర్ ప్రిపరేషన్ షల్ మేక్ అస్ వెరీ బ్రాడ్ మైండెడ్ ప్లీజ్ యూ షల్ లీవ్ యువర్ సో కాల్డ్ స్టిగ్మాస్ యువర్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్. You belong to some X religion, you belong to some Y religion, you belong to some X gender, Y gender, X caste, Y caste. But you are preparing for competitive exams, especially country's highest exam, let me tell you. Highest exam. And obviously, the exam demands secular nature. The exam demands the most common sense from aspirants. So start observing the things, start understanding not only history, historical or the concepts which are there in history, each and every subject, please. Make efforts to understand it. Then write down in your own language. Fine. We were discussing the characteristic features of Indus Valley Civilization. We have started with town planning. To begin, we started with division of say towns, followed by underground drainage system, followed by grid pattern system. Besides, use of uniform bricks, please. Uniform bricks. When I say uniform bricks, we found the same measurements, whatever structures you call it, whether private structures or public structures. When I say public structures, we have, say for example, we have dockyard placed. Dockyard. We have great granary, that will be discussed. Dockyard, Lothal, great granary, Mohenjo-daro. Great bath. So these are the public structures. Then how about private structures, respective homes, private structures, individual, right? So my point is, when we observe during archaeological excavations, the so-called bricks, be it in public and be it in private buildings, we found uniform in nature. That is the significance of another significant event which we found as far as town planning element is concerned. And we found 2 types of bricks, that is baked bricks and burnt bricks. Kalchina itikalu, we call it in Telugu, please. Baked bricks and burnt bricks. We'll be going to refer as part of important towns, please. Now with this background, read on the statement of R.S. Sharma. Especially while you're writing answers, you shall insert quotations, please, so that you'll get good marks. Anni quotations రాసుకుంటూ కూర్చోవద్దు. Required quotations, right? Required the opinions of the respective scholars. Start with commas, write down please. Perhaps no civilization has given so much importance perhaps no civilization has given so much importance to cleanliness and healthiness. To cleanliness and healthiness. I repeat, perhaps no other civilization has given such importance to cleanliness and healthiness. Inverted commas close, the words of R.S. Sharma, Ram Sharan Sharma, one of the authoritative historians of ancient Indian history. The gentleman done lot of research on ancient Indian history and wrote many books, please. And obviously, one of the reference books, one of the the prominent books which we supposed to read for all competitive exams, that is R.S. Sharma, Ancient India. Even for +1, +2 students, intermediate students, you call them, even for competitive exams. Right, it's all about town planning, you call it. In fact, in tomorrow's session, I'll be going to concentrate what were the exceptions. Exceptions are important. In fact, so far 1400 plus sites discovered, right? Be it in Indian subcontinent, under the tag called Indian subcontinent up to 1947, and be it independent Pakistan and independent India. So far 1400 plus sites. When we observe throughout these sites, we found the same structure: upper towns, lower towns, western towns, eastern towns, division and all, right? But there are few towns where we found the absence of grid pattern system, absence of underground drainage system, absence of division of towns or cities, right? So we call them exceptions. On few sites we'll be going to discuss where we found, besides upper towns and lower towns, we also found middle towns. My point is, we shall concentrate much on exceptions because previous questions. Which of the following cities where we found middle town is one of the previous questions. Which of the following sites are towns of Indus Valley Civilization where we found the absence of an organized features of town planning, that is division, all this stuff, some X site. So exceptions that will be discussed in the next class. Fine. Now with this background, have subheading, that is society, please. Society or social conditions of IVC. Society, social conditions. As far as society is concerned, every society to be discussed with two components, that is classification, social classification you call it, and position of women, please. Try to understand. Social classification and position of women. We are not going to spend a lot of time on future societies because we are supposed to spend a lot of time now, please. You shall understand how the subject has to be classified and simplified. I repeat, every society to be studied with two components. The first component, how particular society be classified. You come across some sort of criteria, right? Some sort of base you call it. For example, to make you understand, Hindu society, what is the classification of Hindu society? Caste, right? Simple. That will be discussed as part of Vedic civilization, especially later Vedic period. So caste was a criteria for Hindu society. Now come to Muslim society, that is race. Now come to European societies, that is class. As we referred, archaeologists opine that Indus society got classified on the basis of class, rich and poor. Those especially western towns, rich people, eastern towns, poor people. So class kind of, rich and poor. Then when you go to American societies, you come across color was a criteria, right? Blacks and whites. So when you go to tribal societies, you come across some criteria. Right? You can ask the question, can't we live without these criteria? Can't we live without classification? The answer is no. To make you understand, so there are like, the 4 lines placed, A, B, C, D. If I ask which line is great, which line is lengthy, or which line is great, what would be the answer? మరింత మైన్యూట్ డీటెయిల్ పెట్టకండి. నా మనశ్శాంతికి అన్ని ఈక్వల్ ఉన్నాయని చెప్పండి. అట్ట అయితే చెప్తాం సార్, మేము అల్లుకోబోతాం, నువ్వు ఇంత సంధిని మేము వెళ్ళిపోతున్నాం. ఫైన్, రైట్. నౌ సో జనరల్లీ మనకు ఈ పీస్ ఆఫ్ చాక్ అయితే మెల్లగా వస్తుంది అనమాట. ఇది ఇట్టంటే మొత్తం పోతుంది. నీకు దండం పెడతా పోకు, పోయింది. నౌ ఇఫ్ ఐ ఆస్క్ ద క్వశ్చన్ విచ్ లైన్ ఈజ్ గ్రేట్, షూర్, పక్కా అదే మాట నుండి 8 గంటల క్లాస్ తీసుకుంటాను అనమాట. 7:30 బస్ అవుతుంది సార్, వెళ్దాం, 7:30కి వెళ్దామా, రైట్. సో రిపీట్ ద క్వశ్చన్ ఇంక్లూడింగ్ ఆన్లైన్ స్టూడెంట్స్. చలో. సో విచ్ లైన్ ఈజ్ ద గ్రేట్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ 4 lines please? A, sure. How many says A is the great? Larger line please, larger line. అచ్చా, ఆల్మోస్ట్ మా వీళ్ళు కూడా ఏం చెప్తాం, రైట్. సో వెన్ ఐ సే A is a great line, A feels happy please. It's in human psychology. There are out of like 50 students, if a lecturer, if a teacher praises someone feels happy. It's in human psychology. He or she goes to top అనమాట. సరే తర్వాత పడుతుంది వేరే విషయం, ఏమన్నా అయిపోయినాయి సరే ఎందుకు అన్నా కైండ్ ఆఫ్, రైట్. సో ఇట్స్ అ బ్లడీ హ్యూమన్ సైకాలజీ reason for social classification. It's all about human psychology. Neither Brahma nor protector, that is Vishnu, nor the destroyer Shiva please, responsible for classification. It's a bloody human psychology. ఒక ఫ్యామిలీని తీసుకోండి, ఇద్దరున్నారు, బాబు పాప. పేరెంట్స్ ఎప్పుడు కూడా అమ్మాయిని ప్రేజ్ చేశారనుకోండి, ఈయనకి ఎక్కడ కాలకూడదు అక్కడ కాలుతుంది అనమాట. ఆబ్వియస్లీ లైక్ he would develop some sort of negative what we call attitude towards the parents please. It's a human psychology. అంటే చక్కగా ఉంటే ప్రైజ్ ఇవ్వద్దు అనమాట, చక్కగా ఉంటే మంచి ఇవన్నీ వద్దనమాట. సో బేస్డ్ ఆన్ లైక్ this stuff we shall understand social classification. You call caste, you call race, you call class, we have many please. So we'll be going to discuss caste system once we enter into later Vedic period. We'll be going to discuss race system once we enter into medieval Indian history. How we have Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras in Hindu society. We have Turkish race, Afghans race, Sheikh-Zadas and Habshis among the Muslims. Caste was a criteria for Hindu society, race was a criteria for Muslim society. So criteria was like commonplace. So classification we call it. And the second component, position of women. Obviously, what kind of position women were given to the respective societies. Since we are talking about Indus Valley society, how women were treated by Indus men, very simple. Were they given equality or socially subordination? If equality, what could be the reasons? If socially subordination, why? Besides socially subordination, like did they undergo any kind of restrictions or any kind of inhuman practices? So these are the stuff we shall understand under the tag called position of women. Now with this background, the first one is social stratification or social classification. Once again we shall depend on archaeology because we successfully failed in deciphering the script of Indus Valley Civilization. So based on archaeological evidences, you understand in this way, archaeologists opine that it was a class-based society. Very simple. Indus society was a class-based society. It was a class-based society. As I was telling, when I say it was a class-based society, that is, the credit goes to the division of town. No doubt it's an hypothesis. I repeat again, hypothesis. Right? We found western towns and eastern towns. Archaeologists opine that those people who lived on western towns, where we found high platform and their houses were surrounded by walls, obviously they belonged to rich class or high class as you call them. Since the absence of these two main elements, the major elements in eastern towns, they were branded as poor people. It's nothing but class system. Class based society you call it. Let me tell you, Indus Valley society is a class based society. Even we'll be going to discuss in subsequent classes, that is Vedic civilization. We have early Vedic period and later Vedic period. Early Vedic period, that is also class based society. Then when did caste come? The credit goes to later Vedic period. Right from later Vedic period to 21st century Hindu society, no second thought, caste. Caste based society. And we'll be going to discuss the fundamental differences between, what are the differences between class based societies and caste based societies. So now the patent questions of UPSC General Studies mains, let me tell you. Differences between class based and caste based. That will be discussed once we enter into Vedic civilization. Right. In simple, very simple concept, it was a class-based society, keep aside. So you understand in this way, based on archaeological evidences, scholars opine that it was a class-based society. Now with this background, when we understand the second important component, that is position of women, that is women were given respectable position. Women were given respectable position. Once again, previous question, not of UPSC but of APPSC Group 1. The question asked in this way, which one of the following scholars branded Indus Valley society as a matriarchal in nature? Matriarchal. It was Sir John Marshall. It was Sir John Marshall who preferred to call Indus Valley society as a matriarchal society. Matriarchal. Can anyone? Mother? No, my question is, what does it mean matriarchal society? Head of the society happened to be senior female member. Simple, right? If a family heads by senior female member, if a society headed by senior female member, that family, that society be called as matriarchal, not matrimonial. मार्क दिलसले सर, समझदार की इशारा काफ़ी है, मैं समझता आप लोग समझदार हैं. फाइन, हम लोग बहुत बड़े समझदार हैं, राइट. Good, someone says head of the family, women. Good. So when I say women, you call senior female member. When I say senior female member, grandmother, mother, peddakka, kavitakka kind of. Right. Sir, batkam annattunnadu andukani kavitakka mesukund. Chalo. So on what the question is, like, why Sir John Marshall, the then Director General of ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, the head of excavations and all. So on what basis Sir John Marshall branded Indus Valley society as a matriarchal? The credit goes to, you're saying something, is during excavations more than 500 images of mother goddesses discovered. Based on, once again, archaeological excavations, during excavations more than 500 images, right? More than 500 images of mother goddesses were discovered. No doubt, besides the images of mother goddesses, number is not important, just out of interest I am telling. We also found the images of male gods, that is Pashupati Mahadeva, that will be discussed. Pashupati Mahadeva. Besides Pashupati Mahadeva, we also found, that is the head of the image of a priest. Different, different other images. But compared with mother goddesses, we found many images of female related pantheon, female related worship. That is the reason the gentleman branded Indus society was dominated by women. So women dominated society. And you can ask the question, does that mean men were given socially subordinate position? Right? Because in patriarchal society generally women would be given socially subordinate position, right? Now when we are talking about matriarchal society, does that mean men were given socially subordinate position? The answer is no. The credit goes to, once again, archaeology. Archaeological sources tell us, when I say women were given respectable position, it does not mean women dominated men. It was an opinion, it's a purely opinion of Sir John Marshall. To make you understand, let me give the glance of position of women throughout Indian history. Indus Valley society, the domination of women. Let us consider matriarchal society, please, according to Sir John Marshall. By the time Vedic civilization, we found two societies in Vedic civilization, early Vedic period and later Vedic period. Early Vedic period, it's an patriarchal society, try to understand. Patriarchal, head of family, senior male member. When I say early Vedic period, patriarchal society, women were given respectable position. In Indus Valley society, let us assume women dominated, please, because it was a matriarchal, according to Sir John Marshall. By the time early Vedic period, it became patriarchal, women were given respectable position. Dominate Jeshtini Zalu, Kindiki Ramani chepparu. Then how about later Vedic period? Ikkada goostundi ijjat ga ani chepparu. Otherwise called as socially subordinate position. Right from later Vedic period to 21st century. And don't say that మా ఇంట్లో మా మమ్మీ ఇవన్నీ వద్దన్నమాట. మా మమ్మీ ఏం చెప్తే మా డాడీ వింటాడు, స్విగ్గీ చేయమంటే చేస్తాడు, ఇవన్నీ వద్దన్నమాట. ఐఎమ్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ జనరల్ ఆస్పెక్ట్ ఆఫ్ సొసైటీ. Patriarchal, within patriarchal, women were given socially subordinate position. Besides socially subordinate position, unfortunately they were also associated with many inhuman, barbaric, uncultured practices that will be discussed as part of later Vedic period. Right, it's all about society, please. Next, economy, please. Economic conditions, economy. How society to be studied, that is with two components, social classification, otherwise called as social stratification, and position of women. When it comes to economy, three components to be concentrated. First one is agrarian economy or agricultural economy. Second one, what kind of industries, and third one, trade and commerce. I repeat again, we were making efforts to understand how the future concepts to be understood. Society to be studied with two components, social classification, second component, position of women. Same, we have learnt for Indus Valley society, the same strategy we are going to apply for early Vedic society, later Vedic society, Mauryan society. It went on, please, even today. The main motto of attending classes, listening lectures, what to read, what not to read, and how to read. What are the areas to be concentrated? Then how about economy, economic conditions? As far as economic conditions are concerned, three elements to be understood. The first one, agrarian economy. If agrarian economy, like what kind of crops, what kind of method of cultivation. Some you come across some methods, some sort of crops and few technical terms and all that. Followed by, besides agriculture, what are the other professions? handicrafts we call them, industries we call them, right? Cheti Vrutulu we call it in Telugu, right? Different professions you call them. And finally, trade and commerce, that is two components, internal trade and external trade. Now with this background, the first component of economy, that is agriculture, need not to tell you, that is Indus economy was agrarian economy, please. Right from Indus economy to 21st century economy, no second thought, agrarian economy. Agrarian economy, except early Vedic period, the economy of early Vedic period, saying something, pastoral, fantastic. Except early Vedic period, we'll be going to discuss pastoral economy, remaining all economies agrarian in nature. Can anyone, what does it mean by agrarian economy? Very basic concept. I'm not asking like, they give me the so-called definitions which you get from dictionaries and all that. Very simple definition. Eco agriculture means the constant, fine. Any other? Sustainable agriculture. Agriculture, okay. Economic subsistence, fine. Cultivation, okay. Any other? Primary source of income from agriculture, right? Any other? So Sridhar and others says agriculture as basic profession of the people. Vagdevi, agriculture was given first priority. Good. Any other? మీరు ఏవైతే చెప్తున్నారో అన్నీ కరెక్టే, మళ్ళీ ఏదో ఒకటి తీసుకొని చెప్పొద్దు కదా, ఎందుకు అడుగుతున్నావు, ఇది కూడా పాయింట్ అనమాట. అంటే ఏమైనా కొత్త కొత్త థాట్స్ ఏమైనా వస్తాయి. గుడ్. So agrarian economy is nothing but the economy which revolves around agriculture and its allied organs, allied production, like say production you call it or process you call it. Simple, please. The economy which revolves around agriculture and its allied, anubandham, allied activities. Agrarian economy. Now the question is, what kind of methods which we found in agriculture? That is very primitive method. In fact, we did not discuss as part of prehistoric cultures, as part of especially Neolithic cultures. As I said, we'll discuss as part of Indus Valley Civilization. So let us understand, that is fine. ఏదో సచ్మెంట్ పెళ్ళికి వచ్చింది కట్టు, అదను ఇట్లా డైలాగ్ చెప్తావు, ఉండేది పోద్ది, ఉంచుకునేది పోద్ది, పైన తతాసు దేవతలు ఉంటారు, చూసి మాట ఇది చెప్తున్నావే రైట్ సైడ్లో. So fine, as I was telling, what kind of method followed by Indus people, including prehistoric people, that is floodplain cultivation. Floodplain cultivation, otherwise called as shifting cultivation. Floodplain cultivation, otherwise called as shifting cultivation. So Pavani Reddy and the other says economy majorly dependent on agriculture, good. Right, floodplain cultivation and otherwise called as shifting cultivation. We have also learnt in the previous sessions, that is like otherwise called as zoom cultivation, different technical terms, the same. And when it comes to in Telugu, as I was using a term called Purdue cultivation. If you have the habit of reading newspapers, at least daily you come across Purdue Crisis, Purdue Bhumulu. So tribals must be given ownership rights over the lands on Purdue lands and all that. So what does it mean by Purdue, zoom, floodplain, shifting cultivation? You understand in this way, in this method people would select a plot, please. Very primitive way of cultivation. In this method people would select plot, they cut down all the trees, the trees would be burnt, then what do you get? You get ash. So after that they would allow the rainwater to inundate the so-called plot, and after rainwater completes, you get some sort of slit. Say we have ash and slit, some sort of manure you call it, followed by the people would come and they scatter some wild variety of seeds. Not sowing method, please. Scattering the seeds. Wild variety of seeds we call them. After stipulated period, maybe 3 months, you call 6 months, or sometimes even 1 year, they would come and collect the crop. Next time, they would abandon this plot, they would select another plot. Since it shifts from one plot to another plot, we call it, that's it, shifting cultivation. So why it was called as floodplain cultivation? Because the main source of irrigation, you call it, for our understanding level, floods. Flood plain cultivation. In fact, this is the method which we found right from the days of Neolithic cultures, try to understand. Meherghar, like some XYZ sites we have learnt, the people of Meherghar produced some sort of crops we have learnt through floodplain cultivation, and it was further popularized by Indus people. From the days of later Vedic period, otherwise called as Gangetic Aryans, that is from 1000 BC to 600 BC, we found the absence of floodplain cultivation, the irrigation system we found. Plough cultivation. The credit goes to Rig Veda. We found many hymns, many technical terms which are associated with cultivation process, which are associated with crops and all that. So until the arrival of Aryans, you understand, in this way we found a method through which the people cultivated crops, that is floodplain cultivation. Now the question is, what kind of crops cultivated by Indus people for our convenience? For our convenience, Indus people cultivated two types of crops, that is Rabi crops and Kharif crops. Rabi crops and Kharif crops. Rabi season and Kharif season we call it. Rabi crops and Kharif crops. So under the tag called Rabi crops, otherwise called as winter crops, just write down few technical terms or few crops. To begin with, wheat and barley, Rabi crops. Wheat, barley, Rabi crops, otherwise called as winter crops. Now come to Kharif crops, otherwise called as summer crops. Kharif crops. Write down few crops. Kharif crops, cotton, mustard, mustard, ఆవాలు అంటాం తెలుగులో. సీసమం, SESAME. One more, pulses, jawar, jonnalu, right, etc. Right. So Kharif, Rabi and Kharif crops. Right. Besides agriculture, the second component of economy, that is industries. Besides agriculture, people also what do we call? People also cultivated the other other professions. You start with other professions, important professions you call them. Potters, pot making industry, please. Potters. Besides potters, we have brick manufacturers, brick manufacturing industry. So now the major industries of Indus Valley Civilization. Brick manufacturing industries. One more, shipbuilding industry. One more, metallurgical industry. Shipbuilding industry, metallurgical industry. When I say metallurgical industry, we have learned one of the titles of Indus Valley Civilization. It was otherwise called as, fantastic, Bronze Age Civilization. When I say metallurgical industries, Indus people imported copper from XYZ places. Indus people imported tin the other places, and they made bronze. It's nothing but metallurgical industry. Besides metallurgical industry, we have blacksmiths. goldsmiths. When I say blacksmiths, not meant for iron, try to understand, because iron was used for the first time by later Vedic Aryans. Then what does it mean by blacksmiths? You understand in this way, blacksmith is the one who works with metals, right? Besides blacksmiths, we have goldsmiths. Goldsmiths. So these are the important industries. Right? And finally, trade and commerce. Trade and commerce. As far as trade and commerce is concerned, two elements, that is internal trade and external trade. When I say internal trade, within the civilization, right, to understand, within the civilization. When I say within the civilization, between Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, between Harappa, Lothal, between Mohenjo-daro, Chanhu-daro, within the civilization. Then how about external trade outside the civilization? When I say outside the civilization, we have learnt in the previous session, it was in 3rd millennium BC, we found 4 contemporary civilizations. What were they? Mesopotamian civilization and Egyptian civilization and Chinese civilization. We have learnt, we didn't find any kind of sources to establish Indus people maintain commercial relations with Chinese, but we found many sources based on which we can say Indus people maintain commercial relations with Mesopotamians and Egyptians. So external trade we call it. Internal trade and external trade. So once again, archaeological sources help us in this way, especially seals, let me tell you. Seals. The seals of Indus Valley civilization discovered in the cities of especially Mesopotamian civilization, and vice versa, the seals of Mesopotamian civilization discovered in the towns and cities of Indus Valley civilization. So based on archaeological evidences, we can establish saying that yes, we found commercial relations, especially external relations between Indus and Mesopotamian. One of the previous questions of not the recent past, but 2009, that question, the question asked the external trade route, try to understand, external trade route of Indus Valley civilization. You better had a small subheading, that is external trade route, please. External trade route. So Divya and others says maize. Maize is a crop introduced in 16th century, please, not by Indus people. Maize introduced by what do we call Muslims in 16th century. We'll be going to discuss in subsequent classes. It was in 16th century AD, we have a list of crops introduced in India. We have tomato, potato, chilies, maize, papaya, different crops, including tobacco, please. Except tobacco, the remaining crops introduced in India in 16th century by Muslims. Then how about tobacco? Can anyone? Yes. Fantastic. Portuguese East India Company, that will be discussed. Portuguese or Portugal, Portuguese East India Company. Except tobacco, the remaining crops in 16th century when Jahangir was the ruler, those crops were introduced. Right, keeping aside. Just write down the external trade of Indus Valley civilization. When I say external trade, you understand in this way, from east to west. When I say east, that is Indus Valley civilization, west Mesopotamian civilization. Mesopotamian civilization. To begin with, Meluha. Meluha. Indus Valley was referred as Meluha by Mesopotamians. The people of Indus Valley were referred as Meluha by the people of Mesopotamians. So Meluha, it's a technical term, right? Besides Meluha, we have one more, that is Makkan coast. M-A-K-K-A-N, Makkan. Today, Makran coast, please. Makran coast, Pakistan. Makan coast. One more halt you call it besides Makan coast, we have Dilman, modern Bahrain. Modern Bahrain please, Dilman, modern Bahrain. Makan, modern Pakistan, Makran coast. And finally, that is Akkad, A-K-K-A-D, Akkad. How Indus people were referred as Meluha by Mesopotamians. Mesopotamians were referred as Akkad by Indus people. Simple, right? So, the seals explain us there were many ships were moving from Meluha to Akkad, from Akkad to Meluha. And there are two halting points, Makan coast and Dilman. You can answer the question, as you said, script was not deciphered, then how did you know this, right? Whatever, seals are nothing but script, right? Then how did you know that? Very simple, the script of Mesopotamians. Simple logic. As we discussed, in 3rd millennium BC, 4 contemporary civilizations, unfortunately, the scripts of 3 contemporary civilizations were discovered or deciphered, but not Indus Valley. So when I say it was a foreign trade route, you call it, now this particular information which we got from Mesopotamian seals or Mesopotamian scripts. Right. Now with this background, have small subheading, that is imports and exports. Just have an idea please, traditional discussion. Imports and exports. Imports and exports. Now start with imports. Gold. Oka chinna hyphen తీసుకోండి. Afghanistan. Gold. Afghanistan. Comma. South India. When I say South India, KGF please. Next, copper. Another important import. Copper. Oka chinna hyphen తీసుకోండి. Baluchistan. Baluchistan, comma, Arabia, Arabia, Arab region, Arabia, and even Rajasthan, Khetri mines, referred in the previous session. Gold, followed by copper, followed by tin, one of the allied metals of bronze, tin, chinna hyphen తీసుకోండి. Arabia, please. One more, lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli plus Z. మీకు అర్థం కావడానికి ప్రీషియస్ స్టోన్స్ అని రాసుకోండి, జస్ట్ టు హ్యావ్ అన్ ఐడియా. ప్రీషియస్ స్టోన్స్ మాకు తెలుసులే సార్, ఉంగరాలు పెట్టుకుంటారు అవి అనమాట ప్రీషియస్ స్టోన్స్. సో లాపిస్ లజూలి Z, these precious stones from Badakhshan mines please. Badakhshan, Badakhshan, Badakhshan mines. Badakhshan mines, Afghanistan please. Silver, silver, Iran, Afghanistan, right, etc. So these are the important imports please. Now come to exports. Sindon, 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 oblique, cotton please. So now the previous questions. The cotton of Indus Valley civilization was referred as Sindon by Mesopotamians please. So Sindon, oblique, cotton. Besides cotton, raw cotton you call it, besides cotton you also write down one more export, cotton textiles. Cotton textiles. One more, food grains. Food grains. One more, ivory products. Ivory products. And finally, ornaments. Ornaments made of beads and shells. Ornaments made of beads and shells. Right. It's all about economy, please. So society, two components, that is social stratification followed by position of women. When it comes to economy, three components: agriculture, industries, finally trade and commerce. So as far as you can ask the question, then how about mode of transaction, how about mode of transportation? Very general understanding. When it comes to mode of transaction, that is seals. Besides seals saying something, that is barter system. Vastu marpidi vidhanam we call it, exchange of goods. Barter system. That is the reason, the seals of IVC found on the towns and cities of Mesopotamian, vice versa. So seals, the mode of exchange. Besides seals, we found barter system. Then how about mode of transportation? Need not to tell you, ships, please. Primitive ships, mode of transportation. Now another, land transportation. So as far as land transportation is concerned, you're asking within the civilization. Land, internal trade. We have, no doubt, in internal trade we found land transportation. When you say land transportation, we have bullock carts. Besides bullock carts, we also found icas. That will be discussed as part of major towns and cities. That is like important discoveries. Icas. What are the icas? Icas. Carts which are drawn by humans. General cinema lo chustuntaru anamata. Kind of rickshaw you call it. General rickshaw ni tokktaru. Kani especially in North India, especially Bengal, please, West Bengal, లాక్కొని వెళ్తారు అన్నమాట. వాటిని మనం ఇకాస్ అంటాం. And we found icas for the first time in Indus Valley Civilization. It's a good question. One of our friends asked the question, then how about land transportation? Very simple, bullock carts, right? This is traditional discussion. Besides bullock carts, we have icas. When it comes to mode of transportation in external trade, that is ships. When I say ships, not modern ships, obviously primitive ships. Fine. Another, that is politico-administrative system, you call them. Politico-administrative structure. It's a good question from Asha Patil. As you said, gold is imported from South India. Is it part of Indus Valley or some other people? It's a good question. When I say Indus people imported or Indus Valley civilization imported some XYZ elements from places. For example, copper imported from Rajasthan. What does that mean? Rajasthan is part and parcel of Indus Valley civilization, right? It's a question. When I say gold imported from South India, especially Karnataka, Kolar gold fields, so what does that mean? We have learned before Indus Valley civilization, Chalcolithic cultures. Chalcolithic cultures were contemporaries of Indus Valley civilization. Contemporary, please. The defects of Chalcolithic cultures, they were rural in nature. We have also referred to call particular culture as civilization, you require some prerequisites. Script, one of the elements, urban centers, economy, especially trade and commerce, especially external trade. So when you have these elements, based on those elements, you can call particular culture as civilization. Unfortunately, Chalcolithic cultures lacked all these stuff. But they were contemporaries of Indus Valley civilization. Now we've also learned Neolithic cultures. Neolithic cultures, the few sites we refer Neolithic cultures in South India, please. One among them was Karnataka, Brahmagiri, Hangsi, different sites. So that is the reason we discuss copper from Rajasthan, copper mines, that is Khetri mines from Chalcolithic culture. Then how about gold? gold from not Chalcolithic cultures but from Neolithic cultures. Reason being the absence of Chalcolithic cultures in South India. Please. Right to understand? Paleo, Meso, Neo and Chalco. Paleolithic cultures throughout Indian subcontinent. When I say throughout Indian subcontinent, you call northwestern India, North India, even few parts of eastern India, few parts, Deccan and even South India. The best example, Muchala, Chintamanu, Kurnool district, Andhra Pradesh, South India. And even we had the so-called sites in Tamil Nadu. Right? Then how about Mesolithic? Is throughout Indian subcontinent. Neolithic throughout Indian subcontinent. Then how about Chalcolithic? Only northwestern India, western India and North India. Forget about Deccan and South India. So in place of Chalcolithic cultures, we found megalithic cultures in Deccan and South India. Megalithic cultures we didn't discuss, we are going to discuss as part of South Indian history, that is post-Mauryan age before Shatavahanas. So megalithic cultures followed by Shatavahanas, it's a sequence. It's a good question raised by some Asha Patil. She says that is like, Karnataka, which is a Neolithic site, you call it. Rajasthan Khetri mines copper, it's a part of Chalcolithic cultures. Right, politico-administrative structure, another $1 million question, you call it, in front of us. What kind of government Indus people had? What kind of administrative structure Indus people went through? Same, we need to depend on hypotheses based on scanty evidences. Group of scholars, they came up with different ideas under the tag called hypothesis. Few says, when I say few says, you better write down the name of the scholar, so that it's a previous question. Name of the scholar, on the other hand, on one hand name of the scholar, on the other hand his opinion placed. Purely name of the scholar and the respective opinion. To begin with, K.M. Panikar. K.M. Panikar. Kachinna hyphen this one, write down. So what was his opinion towards political administration of Indus Valley civilization? K.M. Panikar. K.M. Panikar, you also add one more scholar, that is D.D. Koshambi, please. K.M. Panikar and D.D. Koshambi. D.D. Koshambi. These two opine that is priestly, the Indus society was dominated, Indus society was ruled by priestly class, or they came up with a technical term called, it was a theocratic state. Can anyone, what does it mean by theocratic state? Fantastic, based on religion, right? If a state administers its people based on religion, based on religious book, based on religious institutions, that particular state can be called, can be branded as theocratic. Just listen, unimportant, these are the hypotheses. K.M. Panikar, D.D. Koshambi, priestly class or theocratic state, that's it, enough, right? These are the academic discussions. On what basis D.D. Koshambi and a group of other historians branded Indus government, it was dominated by priestly class? The credit goes to archaeological sources, that is right from the images of mother goddess, that is priest head and other stuff related to religion, related to beliefs. Right? The best example, as we referred, Sarjan Marshall opines that more than 500 images of mother goddess. So maximum excavations related to religion, it might have dominated by priests, right? Priestly class. Priestly class are nothing but theocratic state. It's an hypothesis. One more write down, that is R.S. Sharma. R.S. Sharma. Chinna hyphen this one, that is merchants rule, you call it. Merchants rule. Vartakula palana antadayana. Merchants rule. Oblique secular state. Try to understand. The above two says theocratic state, whereas these gentlemen says secular state. So when we understand the hypothesis which was developed by R.S. Sharma, on what grounds he says it was a secular state and dominated by merchants, the credit goes to trade and commerce, especially external trade. Especially external trade. As we refer, the seals of Indus Valley civilization discovered in cities of Mesopotamian, vice versa. And we found large scale external relations, that is commercial relations with Mesopotamian civilization, and it was not exaggerate to say the commodities of Indus Valley civilization was huge demand in Egyptian civilization. No doubt Indus Valley civilization did not maintain direct relations with Egyptian civilization, but through Mesopotamian civilization. So how did it possible when the government is being dominated by merchants? Organized way of trade and commerce. You call it internal trade, you call it external trade. And tomorrow's class we will be going to discuss as part of major towns and cities, that is Lothal was developed by Indus people. Lothal, an external trade center of Indus Valley civilization. How did it possible? The credit goes to government, and which was predominantly dominated by merchants. So in talking about merchants domination, merchants least bother about religion. Merchant is the one, trader is the one who always looks at event with profit oriented. The best example, England, let me tell you. Napoleon Bonaparte, will be going to refer as part of old history. Napoleon Bonaparte preferred to call England as a country of merchants. They least bother about your religion. They least bother about your religious traditions and religious beliefs. In this context, we shall understand the opinion or hypothesis of R.S. Sharma as secular state. Right, one more please. Romila Thapar please. R-O-M-I-L-A, Romila Thapar. T-H-A-P-E-R, Romila Thapar. It's the name of the historian. She please, not he, she. It's one of the prominent historians, you call them, Romila Thapar. And she says, centralized administration. Centralized administration. So on what grounds Romila Thapar opined it was a centralized administration? The credit goes to uniform weights and measures. Tunikalu, Kolatalu, we call it in Telugu, right? Uniform weights and measures. So what does it mean by uniform weights and measures? You just let me give an example of brick manufacturing industry. The same measures were adopted in brick manufacturing. Apply the same towards even trade and commerce. So how did it possible when a government is being dominated in all sectors? When I say government dominate all sector, it's nothing but extremely centralized administration. It's an opinion of Romila Thapar. And finally, A.L. Bhasham. A.L. Bhasham. One of the Indologists, you call him, Australian Indologist, A.L. Bhasham, Australian Indologist, authored a book called The Wonder That Was India. Please. A.L. Bhasham, The Wonder That Was India. As far as A.L. Bhasham is concerned, he says, the single government, please. The single government. So he did not say, or he did not make it clear that the single government, can we consider it as a highly centralized administration as it was opined by Romila Thapar. But there are the few differences between A.L. Bhasham and Romila Thapar. A.L. Bhasham says it was a single government. The other scholar says group of rulers, that is they use a term called oligarchy. Whereas the gentleman says monarchy. You're supposed not to write monarchy, just I'm making efforts to explain you people the difference between oligarchy and monarchy. Monarch, single rule. Monarchy, monarchical form of government. Oligarch, more than one place. Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 5, not more than 5. Oligarchy, a group of people, right? Few says oligarchy when it comes to A.L. Bhasham and even Romila Thapar says that is single government or highly centralized administration. Right, it's all about politico administration. Very simple, we were reciting the term called hypothesis. Once we decipher the script of Indus Valley Civilization, obviously we'll be going to get so many answers for billions of questions. And finally, religious conditions of Indus Valley. As far as religious conditions of Indus Valley is concerned, once again, we need to depend on archaeological sources, especially mother goddesses. Same, Sir John Marshall, more than 500 images. Besides mother goddesses, we also found the image of Pashupati Mahadeva. Pashupati Mahadeva. Pashupati Mahadeva. Now this is one of the religious objects which we found from Mohenjo-daro and other places. It's an, sitting in yogic posture place. Not Pashupati Mahadeva, right? Not Pashupati Mahadeva. It's one of the elements which can be attributed to religion, please. Besides, we have another religious attribute that is this particular seal, please. So did you go through the Pashupati Mahadeva seal? Fine. Tomorrow we'll discuss that. Pashupati Mahadeva. Just have an idea. So gentlemen surrounded by animals, please. Pashu, animals, Pati, head, lord of the animals. Once again we have so many hypotheses, so many different opinions. Few scholars opine that he was a Krishna, please. Govula Kapari. And few others says Shiva, please. Pashupati. So one of the names of Lord Shiva, Pashupati, right? So keeping aside the hypothesis, we found an image which has got 3 heads, please. 3 heads, and the image was surrounded by animals. According to Sir John Marshall, this particular seal, that is Pashupati Mahadeva, tomorrow we'll be going to discuss this particular seal which we discovered from Mohenjo-daro. According to Sir John Marshall, he prefers to call Pashupati Mahadeva seal as Proto-Shiva. So what does that mean by Proto-Shiva? Proto-Shiva is nothing but future Shiva. Right? So this particular image going to emerge as one of the prominent gods of Hindu religion. So in this context we shall understand it as a Proto-Shiva. Right? It's a purely opinion of Sir John Marshall. Right? So Sir John, I repeat, Sir John Marshall opined Pashupati Mahadeva seal as Proto-Shiva. Right? So besides mother goddess, we have the image of Pashupati Mahadeva from Mohenjo-daro, and we have many other religious beliefs from archaeological excavations. We have snake cult, the worship of trees, fire altars, Homa Kund, Homa Gundamu antam Telugulo, Home Kund, fire altars. So we generally come across fire altars during rituals and sacrifices. Fire altars. Especially in Kalibangan we found a row of fire altars placed. During excavations at Kalibangan, Rajasthan, we found a row of fire altars. So what does it indicate? They knew some sort of rituals and sacrifices, fire altars. Be it mother goddess, the worship of mother goddess, that is a female deity, Pashupati Mahadeva, snake cult, worship of trees, even say excavations related to fire altars. Even we found amulets, సివిల్స్ ప్రిలిమ్ పాస్ కావాలంటే 2 తావీజులు కట్టుకోవాలన్నమాట. కట్టుకోకుంటే ప్రిలిమ్స్ పాస్ కావాలన్నమాట. ఎక్కడ దొరుకుతాయి సార్? అమెజాన్లో దొరుకుతాయి. Amulets, please. Taweez, right? So what does that taweez indicates or amulets indicates? Fear of demons. Good. It's nothing but demophobia, please. Whenever you come across taweez, say amulets, we call them in English, that is which indicates demophobia. Maname pedda dayyalamu, kind of, right? Kind of. So demophobia, please. So fear, కొంతమంది భయాలు, ఇంకొంతమందికి పెట్టుబడి అన్నమాట. సమజ్దార్కి ఇషారా కాఫీ. So you come across like many babas, please. ఏది రాలేదనుకోండి, ఒక కొత్త బాబా అవతారం ఇస్తాడు. Right. No income tax rates and all, right, and no professional tax to be paid. So the so-called these people would come and they bow down in front of your, kind of. It's an lucrative business, please. Chalo, keeping aside this stuff, so it was like religious conditions of Indus Valley civilization. You understand in this way, whatever religious, the features or elements which we found in Indus Valley civilization, the same elements that had been continued in later Vedic period. Not in early Vedic period, but in later Vedic period. Including the worship of animals, especially bull. Right? As I was telling, even today, like pious Hindus, they do worship bull, they do worship cows. In fact, the worship of cows is one of the predominant elements of Vedic civilization, not Indus Valley civilization. So let me pose a very general question: what might have forced Indus people to worship bull? Fantastic. Agriculture. Because you can't imagine agriculture without animals. Then you can ask the question, then how about cow? Didn't we come across cow? No doubt we didn't come across evidence of cow during excavations. It does not mean they did not know cow, please. మళ్ళీ కొత్త ఆలోచనలు వస్తాయి అన్నమాట. ఆల్రెడీ కొంతమందికి ఆలోచన ఆవు లేకపోతే ఎద్దు ఎట్లా వస్తుంది, ఇవన్నీ ఆల్రెడీ వచ్చింటాయి అన్నమాట. టు అవాయిడ్ దిస్ ఆల్ దీస్ స్టఫ్ might have known, please, right? But unfortunately we didn't get any kind of cow related discoveries in our farm, but we found bull related, right? especially like humpless bull. Tomorrow I'll be going to show something humpless bull, right? My point is, when I say Indus people worshipped bull, very simple, it played crucial role in economy, agriculture. We'll be going to discuss in subsequent classes, that is like early Vedic Aryans worshipped cow. Very simple, it played crucial role in their economy. Whatever element which plays crucial role in economy, we generally consider it as a sacred. Once again, it's in human psychology. Sacred. ఒక ఆటో డ్రైవర్కి ఆటో చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఉంది. పొద్దుగా లేచి దాన్ని క్లీన్ చేసుకుని దండం పెడతాం మెల్లగా అని చెప్తాం. ఒక క్యాబ్ డ్రైవర్కి క్యాబ్ అనమాట, ఒక డాక్టర్కి, లాయర్కి, చెప్స్ ఆర్ టీచర్కి, ఈవెన్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్, బికాస్ దే ప్లే క్రూషియల్ రోల్, ప్లీజ్. అంతేగాని దాన్ని చాలా హైలైట్ చేశారన్నమాట సమ్ XYZ పీపుల్. ఆబ్వియస్లీ దే వర్ రివర్డ్ యాజ్ సో sacred. It's all about religious conditions. And finally, decline of the civilization. Same as far as decline of the civilization is concerned, once again we have the same topic on hypothesis, please. Just have an idea. Same like the name of the scholar and the hypothesis. To begin with, Mortimer Wheeler, please. Mortimer Wheeler. Chinna hyphen తీసుకోండి, that is Aryan invasion theory, right? Mortimer Wheeler, Aryan invasion theory. So as we referred, be it Max Muller, be it Mortimer Wheeler, the foreign scholars, they never wanted to give credit to Indians, please. The foreign scholars opined that Indus people hailed from Mesopotamian civilization. అంటే మీకు అంత సీన్ లేదు, వేరే సివిలైజేషన్ ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి అది మెల్లమెల్లగా అభివృద్ధి చెందని చెప్పి. కనీసం డిక్లైన్ అన్న మా మొఖాన కొట్టానంటే అది కూడా కొట్టలేదు. సో మార్టిమమ్ వీలర్, son of the Indian, Indologist you call him, right? Obviously English historian and archaeologist. Martimon Wheeler says the civilization destroyed by Aryans. Unimportant, just to have an idea, please. We just have an idea. Aryan invasion theory proposed by Martimon Wheeler. It's like an important topic for optional students, not for general studies. Just to have an idea. The civilization which flourished between 2500 BC to 1750 BC, according to fantastic R.S. Sharma. It was an opinion of R.S. Sharma, and maximum scholars accepted it because it was proposed by R.S. Sharma on the basis of C14 method, carbon dating method and all. So by 1750 BC, Martimon Wheeler says, by 1750 BC, the civilization came to an end. The credit goes to Aryans. The question is, who are Aryans? The gentleman says, they hailed from Central Asia. We'll be going to discuss more or less the same episode as far as origin of Aryans are concerned. Just have an idea. So Martimon Wheeler says, Aryans hailed from Central Asia and attacked on Indus people. The question is, why did they come from Central Asia to northwestern India, otherwise called as, that is, Indus Valley Civilization? Martimon Wheeler says Central Asia was like barren land. Aryans were pastorals, like they were cattle rearers. So in search of pastures or grasslands, they migrated towards east. Assume this is west and this is east. They found the fantastic grasslands, like the so-called resources in northwestern India. Thereby we found some sort of conflicts between Aryans and the local people, otherwise called as Indus people. In these conflicts, the local people were defeated and they were being sent to South India. Aryans occupied the territories of Indus people and they further expanded their journey towards Gangetic Basin, and they were called as Aryans, or North India was called as Arya Varta, South India otherwise called as Dravidians. And the gentleman also used a term called Dasa Dasyus. Dasyu, like some sort of slave you call it. Dasa, some sort of master versus slaves. And he gives some sort of recitations or examples from Rig Veda, please. In Rig Veda we found, we'll be going to discuss, Aryans, they used to hate Indus people. Reason being, Indus people were they worshipped sex organs. Try to understand. Sex organs. That is yoni, female sex organ, and linga, male sex organ. So why did Indus people worship sex organs? Once again, hypothesis, yoni and linga, they were sources of creation. Simple, right? That's an hypothesis, sources of creation. And even today, if you have the habit of reading newspapers, we have a temple called Kamakhya temple. Where it is located? So while you are reading all this stuff, you shall keep aside your rationality, please. Ante a temple ki velte pillalu puttaru, avuna, ivanni oddanamata. Some sort of beliefs you call them. Some sort of beliefs, right? So since Indus people worshipped sex organs, thereby Aryans maintained a kind of hatredness these people. So let us not allow these people into our sanctuaries, or when I say sanctuaries, our towns, please. So by taking these examples, Martimon Wheeler developed this particular hypothesis. The civilization, Indus Valley civilization, was destroyed by Aryans by 1750 BC. And he also came up with another example, like, in Lothal, in Kalibangan, in Mohenjo-daro, we found some sort of, skeletons from, say, around 50 to 60 skeletons which were scattered, please. And generally, kathito was scattered, kind of, right? So some sort of conflicts might have occurred. That is the reason, these people were disappeared from northwestern India. It's an opinion of Martimum Wheeler. In simple, Aryan invasion theory. Obviously, other scholars outrightly rejected Aryan invasion theory. One more, please. One more hypothesis, that is ponding theory, please. G.F. Dales. It's the name of the geologist come archaeologist. Ponding theory. According to ponding theory, which was developed by G.F. Dales, pond, silt, please. Burada antam Telugulo. Since, the so-called towns and cities were located on the banks of rivers, the nature of Indus river and her tributaries, they carry the voluminous water during floods, please. No doubt every river carries voluminous water, but compared with other rivers, we found the nature of Indus river and her tributaries, they carry much more voluminous water. Resulted, since these towns are located on the banks of rivers, these towns got disappeared. When I say disappeared, because of floods, right? The best example, Mohenjo-daro, please. We'll be going to discuss that. Mohenjo-daro got destroyed by river Indus more than 7 times, please. More than 7 times, Mohenjo-daro got destroyed by river Indus. On what grounds you can say it got destroyed by river Indus more than 7 times? During excavations, we found 7 layers. 7 layers, please. One layer, some sort of town. On the other layer, another town. This is how 7 times the people of Mohenjo-daro built the same city on the same site. I'm just giving an example of Mohenjo-daro which was destroyed by river Indus. Right? Apply the same towards other rivers. And we'll be going to discuss the literal meaning of Mohenjo-daro, mound of the dead. Telugulo mudduga mrutula dibba antam. Mound, some sort of elevated position. So during excavations, hundreds and thousands of skeletons were discovered. Right? So how did it possible? It got possible. Reason being, it was destroyed by river Indus. The local people prefer to call Mohenjo-daro as Naklistan. It is located in Sindh, province of Pakistan. Naklistan, the local meaning of Naklistan, that is the place which was inhabited by skeletons. So ponding theory, a little bit scientific, you call it, can be accepted, unlike Martimum Wheeler and all that. One more, please. That is river drying up of theory, please. River drying up of theory. This particular theory or hypothesis proposed by 2 Indian archaeologists. One among them was Dr. S. Agarwal and Professor Sood. Professor Sood. Dr. S. Agarwal and Professor Sood. నదులు ఎండిపోవడం వల్ల civilization అంతమైంది. Like a summary of river drying up of theory. The best example, as I was telling, Indus Valley civilization flourished on the banks of river Indus and her 5 tributaries and Saraswati. At present, Saraswati is nothing but Thar desert. Let me tell you. At present, Saraswati river is nothing but Thar desert. It is not to exaggerate to say, out of 1400 plus sites which were discovered on the banks of river Indus and her tributaries and river Saraswati, more than 80% sites are located on the banks of river Saraswati and her tributaries. More than 80% sites. Strictly speaking, we are supposed to call the civilization which flourished between 2500 BC to 1750 BC as Saraswati Valley Civilization, what we traditionally call Indus Valley Civilization. Since river Saraswati became Thar desert, dried off, obviously people might have migrated from XYZ places to other places. That must be decided by archaeologists. We have one of the sacred say elements associated with Saraswati, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. Triveni Sangamam we call it. It's one of the very sacred element in Hinduism. Triveni Sangamam, Moodu Nadula Kalaika antam telugu. వాళ్ళకి చాలా డిమాండ్ ఉంటుందన్నమాట. డిమాండ్ అంటే like people go and take the so-called baths and all. That is another story. Keep aside. Archaeology says Saraswati, it's nothing. Once Saraswati, now Thar desert. Fine, it's all about. And finally, we have ecological degradation. And most acceptable theory, please. Though it was an hypothesis. Ecological degradation. Ecological degradation theory by Walter Fairservice, please. It's the name of the scholar. Walter Fairservice. W-A-L-T-E-R. Walter Fairservice. So this gentleman opines that ecological degradation theory, it's a very rational, scientific and logical argument of Fairservice. Fairservice, it's an British archaeologist, geologist, come environmentalist. So obviously being an environmentalist, the gentleman studied the the reason for decline of Indus Valley civilization from ecology point of time. So he says Indus people used the natural resources of northwestern India indiscriminately, please. Indiscriminately. When I say indiscriminately, they did not keep in mind for future needs. The best example, floodplain cultivation. The main defect of floodplain cultivation, that is indiscriminate deforestation. Over a period of time, when I say over a period of time, so let us confine that is 2500 BC to 1750 BC. Just imagine the deforestation of northwestern India. It's a very logical theory, right? Ecological degradation. Right? That is the reason we shall understand, we shall adopt, we shall learn lessons from history, especially Indus Valley civilization outcome. The government started emphasizing over sustainable development. ఒకప్పుడు అలా జరిగింది, అంతమైపోయింది. Let us not repeat that. That's the main motto of reading history. What is meant by sustainable development? Including online students, what is meant by sustainable development? Preserving resources for future generations. మనం ఎట్టనన్నా పోనీ. Developments without compromising future generation. ఇంకా ఏమన్నా కొత్త innovative thoughts, sustainable development. Good. ఏమైనా చెప్పావా? లేదు సార్, చలో కోయి బాత్. Sustainable development, very simple. Let us not develop at the cost of future generations. Let us develop by keeping in view preserving natural resources even for future generations. So my point is, at the end of the chapter called Indus Valley Civilization, we shall understand sustainable development. Out of all existing hypotheses, the most popular hypothesis which was developed by this gentleman, that is ecological degradation. So finally you understand in this way, keeping aside the hypothesis, you understand in this way, towns and cities might have got disappeared but not culture. Simple, right? But not culture. What does it mean culture? Way of life. The way of life of Indus Valley people continued by the future generations. Right? You call Vedic people, followed by pre-Mauryan age, followed by Mauryan age, followed by Mauryan age. Even today in 21st century, we do follow their culture. So by 1750 AD, when I say civilization, like towns and cities came to an end, but not culture. Right? It's all about Indus Valley civilization. So in the next class, we'll start the third chapter, that is Vedic Civilization. So we'll have a pause. We'll continue the next class. Thank you.